You're live, great.
Let's go.
All right, welcome to Industry Connections. I'm Ivan Montero. I'm the Assistant Director for Industry Connections. On campus here, my office is in the Center for Career and Professional Development, otherwise known as Career Services, in most places. So today I'm gonna be your moderator for today. Our audience is gonna be those in the room here, and obviously we have some people online as well. So we'll be fielding some questions from online as well as here in the room. The way we'd like to get through this is we'll talk about we'll present some questions to get them to get some answers. If you have a question, if it's pressing and you have to know the answer, go ahead and ask it. But ask if you could hold off those questions till the end. We're gonna have a queue. We'll leave enough time to answer the questions. Edson has some pens and some note cards there for you to put your questions on, or if you're online, joining us online, you can put your questions in the chat room, and Edson will be moderating that from his computer. So we're actually really fortunate that we have a full panel today, and looks like our numbers are growing online, so that's great. So we have different career conversations every week leading up to different career fairs that we have. And this week, our career fair is going to be business and logistics. It's on Wednesday. Most everyone will be there of the panelists here, I think, except for Nucor, right? Nucor is not going to be there.
Hannah?
No.
Right.
Fortunately.
Right. But for good reason, because they've already met their hires, so that's a good thing. By the way, Nucor is our sponsor, so thank you for that. I would put a big fancy banner up here, but I'm not that tech savvy, so I'll just say it. Yeah, so we're gonna begin by asking the panelists to introduce themselves and share a little bit about themselves, and then we'll delve into the questions, then we'll open it up for Q&A. And the way the formatting of the questions is we'll ask some general questions, then we'll get some industry specific questions, and then we'll cap it with the Q&A at the end. Right. Okay, so we'll start with let's start with Hannah, since she's hiding over here. And then we'll pass it to her counterpart over here, but we'll start with Hannah letting us know who you are, what you do with your company, and what does your company do.
Well, my name is Hannah Shire. I am a talent specialist and I work for the Nucor Raw Materials Group, which is a division of Nucor Steel Corporation, the largest steel manufacturer in North America, as well as the largest recycler of any material. So I help support all of the scrap metal recyclers, a part of that raw materials group across multiple states and cities. And just recruiting, try to find young talent, some good internships in various positions, as well as entry-level leadership roles. And I brought a commercial buyer who works for Trademark Metals Recycling, which is one of the many divisions part of the raw materials group, Melissa Farland.
Wonderful. We'll pick it up right there.
Yes.
My name is Melissa Farland. I am a commercial buyer. I've been with Trademark Metals Recycling, a division of Nucor, for 8 years. My role is in basically sourcing all the scrap material that our facilities process. So it's very similar to like sales, a little bit of cold calling. I'm also helping with the P&L of the facility, making sure that we're buying material at the right margins. Because I've been with the company for a while, my role has kind of expanded a bit more. I've helped Hannah a lot with recruiting. We opened up a new facility this fall, so I'm doing a little bit of marketing. I do a lot of training. But basically we are a hidden industry. We look a lot for operation management leadership as well as sales leadership positions. I think we are actively looking for a couple internships this summer that do see those roles, but as well as I believe a finance internship, mechanical engineering internship, and maybe something else of that nature. But yes. Cool.
Hi, guys. My name is Paige, Paige Carter. I'm the recruiting and marketing specialist for BMAC Logistics. BMAC Logistics is a third-party logistics company. I always say the biggest picture of who we are, what we do. We're basically a middleman. We connect our customers that have freight shipments that need to be going from point A to point B with carriers, the actual trucking company. So we're that matchmaker. We people that have freight that need to be moved with truck companies that actually get the job done. And it's this kind of role that we have. It's all kind of an inside sales organization. So we're hiring inside sales reps, fresh grads, entry level. It's a really great opportunity to kind of jumpstart a sales career. And if you guys are always interested in logistics, it's always the background of things I say. Logistics is always, people don't really talk about, it's not the most glorious, I would say, industry, but it's a great way to make money in sales. It's never going away. It's a recession-proof industry, I always say. But yeah, that's a little bit about me and BMAC.
Thank you.
Hi, I am Cameron Kennedy. I work for Sunbelt Staffing. I've been there for about 2 years now. January was my 2-year mark. I am on the talent acquisition team. So me and one of my other colleagues, we mainly hire for the downtown Tampa office. Our headquarters is in Atlanta, Georgia. Basically, we are a healthcare and education staffing company. So kind of similar to Paige, we're kind of that like middleman, basically placing healthcare professionals into schools for contract work. So we work with like speech and occupational therapists, school counselors, school nurses, things like that. The role that we're hiring for, it's a full-time account executive role, very similar as well. That entry-level sales, have a lot of new graduates, kind of get your foot into the sales industry. Also, it's very relationship-based as well. We call a lot of our account executives also recruiters because they are, kind of walking those candidates through the entire process, from start to finish. So finding them, seeing what certifications they have, or just what they're looking for in a certain area, and then also looking to find a school that may have that vacancy to fill them for that role. So yeah, it's basically, again, just kind of that matchmaking position, entry level. We kind of hire all year round, so definitely hiring for the upcoming spring and currently as well. But yeah.
And my name is Kyle Smith. I'm the Talent Acquisition Director for Citywide Facility Solutions. We are a facility maintenance management company, so we sell janitorial and non-janitorial services to over 700 buildings in the Tampa Bay area. I've been with the company for about 2 years now. We are a sales company, so I primarily hire for sales and account management positions, but we have other roles, obviously admin positions, accounting, and things like that. So, yeah. Right.
And online, Sonia, can you hear us?
I can. My turn.
Great. Yep.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sonia. I work for Arthrex. Headquarters are based in Naples, Florida, so about 2 hours south of Tampa. I'm a talent acquisition specialist on the college relations team. So I primarily focus on hiring our interns and also co-ops for primarily engineering and also IT related majors. But our company is looking at hiring a wide variety of majors, from finance to accounting to MBAs to supply chain and packaging science majors and things like that. I've been with the company since May of last year, so about 9 months. Also not originally from Florida, so this is my first beautiful winter down here, which I'm very pleased to be here instead of up north. And our company is a medical device company, so we invent or develop, manufacture, and then also distribute medical devices, from more minimally invasive procedures, so scopes and resecting tools and things like that, to partial implants, total implants, screws, sutures, metal plates, things like that, and then also utilizing different parts of the body as far as platelet-rich plasma for preventing and healing injury, mainly in the orthopedic space, so sports related injuries, but also, like I said, minimally invasive procedures as well. I'm looking really to hire. We have offer 6-month co-ops, so those start in July and go until December. Primarily those are engineering related roles, but we do have a handful of internships still available for this summer. I know a majority of those have been filled from the fall recruitment season, but yeah, open to any discussion.
Great, thank you. Right, we'll get right into the questions here. So, the first question, we'll start here with Melissa. So we talk about taking different paths to get to where we are today. We talk to our students all the time about that. When I was in career coaching, that was one of the common themes that we met with students about, where they had to decide which major to go with, or they wanted to change, they were considering changing your mind. So having that said, what was your major in college? And did you always expect to be in this field?
No, I didn't even know this existed. I actually fell into this by accident. So I went to UCF. I got a bachelor's in marketing and then a minor in hospitality. I thought I wanted to do hospitality until I figured out that you have to work all holidays, and pretty much that seemed depressing to me. So when I graduated, there's a big recruiter here called Enterprise that hires a lot of graduates. So I spent about 4 years with them and really learned how to run a business. Became a branch manager. Great opportunity to learn a lot. You learn really about how to make money, how to run a business profitably, and then also the customer service aspect. When I was younger, I used to watch the show called Friends. Not sure if you guys heard about it, but I love the character Rachel Green, and I wanted to be a buyer just like her, buy stuff for Ralph Lauren. So when I decided that I want to work at Enterprise, I started applying for all jobs that said buyer. Somehow, I guess I applied to this job called Trademark Metals Recycling. They had a commercial buyer position, had no idea what it was, and they were trying to explain to me what scrap was and what they did. And that's kind of how I fell into the role. So although it wasn't necessarily what I thought I would end up doing when I was in college, what I learned was that obviously with a business degree, you learn a lot of fundamentals, right? Going to Enterprise, I learned a lot about business, profitability, customer service, all the things that you kind of learn in college, right? When you're in the retail space or whatnot. And then when I moved over to Trademark Metals, I really learned that essentially what I liked was the ability to change my day every single day. I'm not a person that lives behind a computer looking at spreadsheets. That's not my strong suit. Every day there's a new problem to solve. Every day there's some new material that I haven't even learned about or seen before. And I got to figure out how to process it, how to make money from it, and how we're going to ship it. So I've been with the company for 8 years. And when I say that out loud, it sounds surprising. But what I've learned is that it keeps me engaged every single day. Like I'm doing this. I've never done this before. I've never been on a panel. We opened up that new facility. I learned about marketing in regards to like geofencing, things that I've never done before, and how to pretty much drive business. So, I think that is very unconventional, a female buying scrap metal, but I guess it's working 8 years later.
Sounds like it's a great fit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
somehow.
How about you, Paige?
So I didn't think I was going to get into recruiting and marketing. I went to Loyola University in New Orleans. Went there because I was a swimmer. I was a swimmer my whole entire life, athlete. I majored in public relations, so communications, minored in marketing. So when I was living in New Orleans, if you guys have ever been there, it is a crazy food city. It's so many great food restaurants, and I really just wanted to kind of get more into the marketing side for like a restaurant group. And then I was a 2020 grad, and so COVID hit, and so I just had to force to move back to Tampa. So I was like, I was on the fence about sales, recruiting. I know they're kind of similar, but started my career in IT sales, moved into IT staffing. It's a little bit different, but still kind of similar at the same time. And then I found BMAC Logistics, where I'm currently at. And recruiting internally is a lot more hands-on because staffing is very salesy. You're wanting to get all these candidates to fill a job, but at BMAC, where I'm the recruiter, it's more personalized, where I'm actually, having these phone calls, doing the actual interviews, doing the onboarding for people that I'm bringing on. I conduct trainings for, the first kind of initial overview of who BMAC is. I kind of conduct that training. So I was on the fence with staffing and recruiting, and I was like, what? I think I'm more of a kind of hands-on person where I want to be involved inside the company. So I love recruiting, and didn't think I would even get into logistics. But like I said, once you kind of learn all about the industry, it's always in the background of things, but it's never going to go away. And that's why I kind of like that, and just kind of seeing where everything's going around the world. But yeah, it's a little bit about how I kind of progressed up into my career now.
Great. Cameron, how about you?
Yeah, so similar in a way. I am originally from New Jersey, and had family down here. Knew I kind of knew I wanted to go to Florida for school, but I actually went to Eckerd College in St. Petersburg. I was a sailor there, so I was an athlete as well. Grew up sailing, always kind of knew I wanted to do that. I studied business management and marketing, so double majored there. To be honest, when being an athlete in college, it is a full-time job. So I had no idea. I was not working in school. I was working when I went home for the summers, but I didn't really have that clear path of where I wanted to go. So kind of just needed to stay here after college and went into hospitality. Just became a server and kind of made money to really just be able to stay down here. And that actually really kind of started everything as to where I wanted to be, and what I wanted to do day to day. And I knew that was talking to people. I knew that, as an athlete, being in a competitive environment was also big for me. And that's kind of where I was offered a full-time job in sales. And I've always had this kind of image of what sales looked like, and I said absolutely not. I'm not doing a sales job. It's not for me. And the same company, I actually worked for a logistics company as well, my first time out of college. And I was like, oh, well, what about that recruiting role? That sounds super interesting. Did I really know the difference and how similar it would be? Not really. But I was like, you know what? Let me just give it a shot. Can I interview with you guys? They were like, sure. They gave me a shot, and sure enough, I was hired, and that's kind of what started my recruiting career. Absolutely fell in love with it. Again, just like to have, those relationship building. The internal side of it is different. I completely agree. Just kind of working with somebody through that whole process. It's a super rewarding role as well. Some of the account executives that I work with today, just seeing them get into leadership roles and really thriving in their roles is just what makes my day every day. So also just being able to find somebody a role and really help them. So yeah, I've been in it ever since, 3 years now total. So again, kind of that perception that you have even in college, definitely kind of guide you to do a little bit of research before you say no right away, because you never know what's out there, and you never know really like the logistics of what goes behind each job. But yeah, just a little bit of
Yeah,
advice
we're
there.
gonna talk a little bit more
Okay.
about that too.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good.
Kyle, what major in college, and did you always envision working in this field?
I did not. I never imagined that I would work in recruiting until it just kind of happened one day. So I majored in criminal justice from Indiana University. But when I graduated in 2009, the economy had just gone into a recession. The housing market crash was the year before. So there weren't a lot of opportunities out there. I thought maybe I would work in parole or probation, and none of the local counties were hiring at the time. They were all on freezes and not going to be hiring anytime soon. So I just kind of branched out from there. I got an opportunity to work for a nurse staffing agency in Cincinnati. I did that for about 3 years. I was wearing many hats in that job. I was doing the recruiting, I was doing onboarding, I was doing new hire orientations. It was a staffing company, so everybody did staffing. I did the payroll. We did daily payroll there, so all day long I was just getting time cards faxed to me and paying people. I was doing billing and collections, so it was a lot. Every day I basically had like 12 different jobs that I was doing in there. And then one day I decided if I was gonna stop doing all of this and just focus on one thing, it's the recruiting that I like the most. So I started applying to jobs around the country. I got an opportunity to work here in Tampa. This was in 2012, so I've been here about 13 years now. Yeah, they offered me a position and said, the role starts in 2 weeks. Are you going to be here? And I said, yeah, I guess so. I just started packing up my apartment, loaded up my car, and drove down I-75.
Sonia,
Yes. So very similar to a lot of the other panelists as far as career progression went. I was a hospitality major in school, and I went to the university that's in my hometown in Pennsylvania. I did an internship in doing events in New York City, which was, if you would have asked me 10 years ago where my career would have led, it would have been that. But whenever I graduated, I had two options: to go to Chicago to do something very similar to what I did during my internship, working with weddings and events and the aesthetics behind it, or moving to the middle of nowhere, Wyoming, working for a major hotel and resort chain, doing sales for them. So I said, well, I've done the city thing. Why not do the exact opposite and get as far away as I could from where I'm comfortable? And started my career in sales with the Four Seasons, learning a lot about kind of the hospitality aspect of it. I think similar to the other panelists, that's a great foundation, especially for recruiting. But similar, I was tired of working, evenings and weekends and holidays and things like that, but I really enjoyed what I was doing. So I relocated to Denver, worked for a hospitality startup. I got into I started out in sales and then got into recruiting that way. In the back of my mind, I always thought about human resources and the similarities between sales and also, the interaction that we have with employees, but also when you're recruiting for the candidates and that experience. So I got into kind of more experienced hire recruiting there. I moved to a slightly larger communications company or tech company after that. And then I went to one of the big four accounting firms and did university recruiting on that big level. So it was kind of like Goldilocks in her three chairs, trying to find which company size she enjoyed the most. And then I was looking for a new opportunity, and Arthrex came about, and I obviously am not afraid to relocating. So I just knew that while I was interviewing, that not only it was the mission that I connected with, but also, the content of what I would be recruiting for. So engineers and IT related roles. And like I said, I've been here 9 months, but it seems like I simultaneously just moved here, but also have been here for years, which is kind of a good feeling, I think, to keep me engaged and keep me on my toes. But yeah, I guess my biggest takeaway is just say yes to the opportunities, but also trust your gut and knowing what, whether you're interviewing with a company or whether you're, nervous about what that future holds. It's just, it's going to be great experiences no matter what. And it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, the common thread that I'm hearing is that you either fell into it or you're open to other opportunities. And that's something that we talk about as well in our center with students when we counsel them. We're considering different options, is that you don't necessarily have to stay where you are. It's okay to explore other options, and you may end up right back where you are. But not everyone ends up where they started. So that's something to really keep in mind. Cameron, something you said, I want to jump on that real quick. What's the one thing about your industry that people often misunderstand?
Yeah, just based off of speaking to, like I speak to a lot of new graduates every single day, whether that be on the phone, in person. And I think sales very much kind of scares them in the beginning of it. Just kind of the perception that they have. I mean, for me, sales was very different from what I thought it actually is now being in it. Recruiting is very much it's sales. You have numbers, goals, quotas, definitely, a performance-based type of role. But I think, a lot of individuals kind of their mindset really takes over before they actually, attempt to kind of put their all into it at times. I think they look at the bigger number and it's kind of just it intimidates them. And I think that as long as you're really putting in the work every day, you're going to see what's going to come out of it. Whether that be making 50 calls a day versus 60. If you have that mindset of, okay, I left, this amount of voicemails, but I actually spoke to this many people, kind of having that mindset, okay, maybe I need to call some more, because at the end of the day, you're going to get all of those no's, but it's going to give you eventually a yes. So I think having just that mindset in the very beginning may or may not kind of turn how you actually can do the job, if that makes sense. For me, yeah, it was just very much, I just had the perception of sales like, oh, I'm going to be making 200 calls a day and, no one's going to pick up and I'm going to leave all these voicemails, or even had the perception of, knocking on doors and having to do that. There's many different types of sales too, which I don't know if everybody, even I didn't understand all the different types of sales. So I think just kind of doing your research and understanding what it actually is before kind of having that mindset already going into it is a big thing.
Yeah, so full disclosure, I was a recruiter as well.
Yeah.
I did 8 years- I was a military recruiter, so I spent 8
Okay.
years in military recruiting, but sales is sales, so it's same, some of the language is very much the same. I always say that was the best and worst job I ever had, At the same time, the highs are really high and the lows are really low, especially when you're performance based. Paige, same type of question. What's one thing about your industry, being that you're in logistics and that you mentioned something about being not common? What's something that people often misunderstand about that career field?
Yeah, definitely. Whenever I say we're BMAC Logistics, we are trucking, they always think, oh, so this role I have to be a truck driver, and I'm like, absolutely not. People don't understand that we are a relationship building company where we are that middleman. We find the median for both sides. Truck drivers that need to find a job, get that shipment, and get on the road, and then those companies. And since we are a third party logistics company, when I say we move freight, anything from produce, refrigerated foods, lumber, steel, construction materials, anything out there. So a lot of people always get confused and are like, we're BMAC Logistics. And they're like, oh, I'm going to be a truck driver. I'm like, this is a total sales account management role. But I liked how what you said about there's all different types of sales. And that's a great way, I always say, is when you're when you want to get out of obviously college and you're like, what do I want to do? There's so many sales routes you can take, where you want to go down the business development route where you're strictly just bringing in all the clients, that account manager side where you are just building that relationship with the customer, and you're not doing all the calls, but you're managing it. And within BMAC, you're doing both business development and account management. So you're actually the one finding the customer, and then you're actually babying them to make sure everything is good to go for all of their shipments from start to finish of the sale. But biggest takeaway I always say is people think that you're going to be a truck driver, but in logistics sales, it's all about building relationships with both sides, the trucking and the customers.
Anyone else want to chime in on that before we move on to the next question?
I would say with scrap metal, I mean, I associate scrap metal as what you saw in the movies. You're like, how can I build a career for that? Like, I went to college to buy scrap metal. That doesn't really make much sense. But we're part of a very large organization, and I say it's a hidden industry because guess what? Everyone generates scrap metal, whether it's like an old washer dryer, an old junk car, whatever. It always ends up at one of our facilities. And one of the cool things that I've really enjoyed learning while being at Nucor Trademark Metals Recycling is that you really can build careers, right? We have people that are safety managers. They make sure that our team stays safe. These are highly educated people. We have environmental managers that make sure that we're making sure that our water is not contaminated, making sure that we're following all these protocols. We have facility managers that are retired military people that held very high positions, and they're developing, leading their teams, right? In my role, it's sales, very much kind of like her, where yes, I am doing business development, but I'm also doing a lot of account management. So I'm building relationships with these large organizations that generate scrap metal as a byproduct because maybe they're building bridges, right? And they have cut off ends, and that generates scrap, and we buy that. So sometimes your perception or what you think a business does is not necessarily accurate. I mean, I've been to so many career fairs, and when I say, oh, what does TMR do? Like, oh, we buy scrap metal. I can see it in their face. They're like, okay, this is not like, what am I doing at this?
Mhm.
I would have been that person too. And I probably will say that when I was in college, I had that mindset, and I think about I remember I didn't want to move to do an internship because I was like, I'm not living in St. Louis. Who cares? Doesn't matter if you're gonna end up in St. Louis or not. You want to take the opportunity, build some experiences so that way you can build that foundation to essentially make yourself a more competitive candidate when you do graduate, right? You'll have connections with some people within the organization that you'll learn from. So a lot of times you think, okay, even if it's like the worst job in the world that you have after college, there's still an opportunity for you to learn something and then use that for the next position. So that would be my thing.
Right. I have one more career question before we get into the industry specific questions, which are really interesting. Let's start with, we'll do one quick one from everyone and then we'll get into the industry type questions. So we'll start with Sonia online here. So, looking back, what's the one thing that you would have done differently in your career path? There's just one thing.
Oh, goodness. Um, I think it would be investing time in the relationships that I had as far as like leadership goes. You know, I am still, the first boss that I had out of university, whenever I worked for the Four Seasons in Wyoming, he's still a mentor to me today. So, you know, you kind of have those connections with people that, you know, really kind of make an impact in your career, but also taking advantage of the other individuals that are either, you know, managers or people that maybe have been in the role longer, and just kind of building those connections and fostering those relationships. You know, especially as a new employee, I felt like I was very much focused on learning the job, which of course everyone would be. But looking back on it, you know, just trying to establish the relationships with those different levels of senior leadership or even mentors, and stepping out of my own comfort zone and establishing maybe bi-monthly or quarterly one-on-ones with them to see if they would, you know, be able to provide advice for maybe somebody who is early on in their career, something like that. Yeah, I guess that's what I would choose. But I would say overall, you know, every decision, not to sound too woo-woo, has led me to where I am. So I, you know, don't regret any of that. But it's, you know, something maybe in hindsight, looking back, it would be nice to have fostered deeper relationships like that.
What do you?
If I could go back again and do things differently, I would go right back to the beginning and do college completely differently. To me, when I was in school, it was just about getting that piece of paper. I went to class, did my homework, and then I hung out with my friends in the evening time. But there's so many opportunities at a university like this, so many doors that can be opened just by going to career fairs, pursuing internships, joining clubs and groups and things like that. You know, there's so many things that you could do differently, and you just be amazed how many doors can open up just from, you know, really pursuing all the opportunities that the school gives you.
Yeah, one thing you would have done different.
Yeah, I would say very similar. I know I said earlier I was an athlete, so it was kind of my full-time job, but I had wished, now that I am a recruiter, going to all of these campus events, I really wish that I had gone to the events on my campus, that were more related to my major. Obviously I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I knew I was sticking to the same major all 4 years. So, I kind of wish I, you know, built my resume a little bit more in a way like, even just as simple as formatting it the right way, getting, you know, creating a LinkedIn profile, doing all of those things. Now seeing it on the other side as a recruiter going to all of these events, I really wish that I kind of had started that a little bit earlier. Obviously I am where I am today, but yeah, I just think, you know, again, like you said, you know, really just attending those events, going to those career events, even if it's just like a networking event, just to get myself out there a little bit more. I think, yeah, definitely would have done those as well.
How about you, Paige?
Yeah, I would say, you know, graduating college is always scary. You're like, I just want to get a job. I don't, but don't, I say, don't take the first job right out of college. You know, don't, if you really like something like me, I love the marketing side. I wish I could have stayed in New Orleans and done marketing for restaurant groups, but obviously had to transition to something else. But maybe if I looked back, I'm like, look, maybe I could have done that in Tampa. Like you could, there's so much opportunity out there, but you know, don't cut yourself short. Just, you know, keep exploring it. Don't give up on what you really like because the opportunity is there. You know, you just have to dive a little bit deeper. And like I said, I know graduating college, you're just like, I want to get a job. I want to get a job. But, you know, do your research really and be passionate about what you want because in the end, you know, you may like it for 1 month. The next month, you're like, oh, I want to get out of here now. So, you know, always do your research and just, you know, strive for it and go for it.
Great point.
I mean, everyone really had some great suggestions, but kind of a little bit of everything. Fostering the relationships is definitely really important. I mean, I wish I would have a mentor that's, you know, from 5-6 years ago, but I really, I would say that I really closed myself off. I was just like, you know what? I'm in Orlando. I'm willing to move to Orlando or Tampa. And I was so like afraid to try anything else. Why? I don't know. And I look back, I'm like, man, I should have done study abroad and learn something, right? I should have been willing to like move to the middle of the state just to see what happens because you just don't know what doors that'll open. And I mean, a lot of times when I'm at recruiting events and I have these people come up saying, okay, what do you do? How can I get hired from you guys? And I looked at the resume and it's like, okay, well, all I do is I work at the coffee shop and then nothing else. No previous experience, no internships, nothing. I mean, so I think that there's definitely an opportunity to just try something new. I mean, when I did my first internship, I did not get paid. I worked at a radio station. I just thought it would be so cool to intern at a radio station, and I didn't even have the money to pay for the gas to get to the internship. But I just thought like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. I'm working at a radio station. So just don't be afraid to put yourself out there and try stuff that's uncomfortable. That's probably like my biggest thing. Be as uncomfortable as possible because you're gonna grow and you're gonna learn something about yourself.
That's great advice. I mean, right before you break the sound barrier, it gets a little right shaky, and then you break through. So we would all agree that internships, networking, extracurricular activities, all of those things are really important in developing professionally, really. There's a statistic that over 80% of people that get jobs get them through networking. So that's year over year, decade over decade. It's been that way for a long time, since before the internet, 80s and 90s and all the way till today. That's still true. And it's networking is a great way to get a job.
I think they're the same thing that if you network correctly, you'll never have to interview for another job because automatically you'll have people calling you. You'll have leads looking. You're like, hey, I know you're doing great at this. Hey, I have this project. I mean, that's one goal of mine. Like that's amazing. How amazing that would that be, right? So
It's true.
networking is key.
All right. Anyone have a quick question before we move on to the industry questions for them? Online, any questions? No? All right, cool. Okay, so Melissa, we'll stay right here with you. So manufacturing industry is seeing significant advancements in sustainability, automation. How is Nucor adapting to these changes and what skills will be most valuable for future professionals in this field?
So kind of weird. So we're actually not a manufacturer, right? We provide the scrap metal for the steel mills to basically make new steel. Now, it used to be that when steel was made, it was not made from recycled content. Nucor was one of the first mills to basically create this technology with called an electric arc furnace. Basically, what it allowed them to do was take old scrap metal, kind of like a soup, right? A little bit of scrap metal, a little bit of this, and basically make new steel, right? So that's kind of what made them different, made them grow exponentially, right? So although under trademark you don't manufacture, a lot of the skills I think are just universal that you can even get. Like I said, you can be a bartender, you can work at an office, you can work at the help desk. It's a lot of customer service, leadership, sales. These are all universal now, unless you're trying to get into the technical aspect. Because we're part of a large organization, there's opportunity for you to expand in the organization. We have over 30,000 teammates, and they're all under different divisions. We make solar panels, cars, garage doors, you name it. Anything that's made out of steel, it's pretty much falling under the Nucor umbrella. Like today, I have a Nucor teammate shadowing me today and tomorrow, and she's a metallurgist. I'm like, what is a metallurgist? Okay, she did biochemical engineering as the major, and she figures out, okay, how do I make this metal stronger so we can bend it, right? So if it's something technical like that, then obviously you're gonna want skills in that technical aspect. But at the end of the day, you just need to find what you like, what you do, and then just try and gain as much experience as possible, even if you don't think it doesn't relate, because it's gonna turn into something else. So I don't know if that answers the
Yep.
question.
Kyle, let's go to you. I was at a briefing, a region of the state of the region, a few days ago, or last week, Wednesday, Thursday. And I heard a quote, and it's really interesting, is that historically, technology creates more jobs than it takes away. And we're talking about the Industrial Revolution and all the way to today. And the next generation is AI. So they're talking about how that's going to take away jobs. And this has been a fear since back then, every time this happens. But historically, the more jobs have been created by technology than taken away, just people that adapt. So with that in mind, how's the demand for professional maintenance services evolved? With like the rise of sustainability, smart buildings and that sort of thing?
I think, we're still doing really well for ourselves. The demand is probably never going to go away. One of the beauty things about our industry is that, any business with a physical building is a potential customer of ours. We do have our target customers, but honestly, anybody with a physical building is a potential customer. I would say that, there were things that we learned about our industry during the pandemic. That was a very tough time on a lot of businesses, but it was actually a boom period for us. People wanted more cleaning, they wanted more sanitizing, and we've been riding that wave ever since. So, we found out that it didn't matter if there was only one person working in the building or if there were 100 people working in the building, that building still needed to be clean and maintained. So, hopefully we're not going to see another pandemic in our lifetimes, but we know at the next economic downturn that our business is going to be just fine. So.
Has the ordering of eco-friendly materials and all that, does that come into play as far as costs?
That would be a better question for some of our salespeople because I'm not as into that world as they are. So as far as the actual cost of some of the supplies, I'm not sure, but I don't know. That's actually a very good question.
I'm just setting it up for logistics and business and finance with these type of majors so that if you're in those industries, that this is something that could appeal to them as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely set it up. Okay, Paige, what skills or certifications are most valuable for students interested in pursuing logistics and supply
Yeah.
curriculum?
Obviously, there's lots of logistics jobs and supply chain jobs, but specifically in BMAC, where you are the sales rep, where you are selling the service to a potential customer, whether that be, like I said, a produce company, a steel company. You're saying, we're BMAC Logistics, we'll move your freight wherever it needs to go. We'll handle everything for you. You just pay us and we'll get it there in a time efficient, reliable manner. So definitely what's cool about logistics and how you can kind of, I guess, when you're moving someone's freight from point to point B, everything goes into the rate, where what type of truck it is, what type of commodity. If it's refrigerated, it's a lot more expensive than lumber being put on a truck. That goes into all into the rate and everything. So, and how heavy it is. So I always say it's good to have good negotiation skills. We're gonna have to negotiate rates with truck drivers, say the customer paid me this, but I have to make money off of this, so I'm gonna make a good sale. So you gotta, try to talk to the truck driver, hey, can you do this for $500? But the customer paid me, let's say $800. So having good negotiation skills. Like I said, within this role, you are the business development person and the account manager. So you gotta learn how to, sell yourself and not sound like that annoying salesperson. You gotta know, how can I stand out and, make a relationship with someone, but not sounding like a true salesperson. So good negotiating skills, learning how to, build relationships with people. And then just having good time management, because you are going to be tracking and tracing shipments for your customers when they're on the phone saying, hey, can I get an update? Where's my shipment right now? And you're like, hold on, I have like 3 other shipments. So knowing how to timely manage yourself is also a great way. But those 3 things come off the top of my head.
Okay, thank you. Sonia, let's go to you online. So beyond engineering and research and development, what types of career paths exist within like medical manufacturing industry?
Sure. And I can't speak for all medical manufacturing, but at least with Arthrex, I would be surprised if there's not a major under the sun that we don't hire for. We offer, we have like a hospitality team because we have lunch provided and events and things like that. So culinary and events and, like I said, hospitality, but also within manufacturing, there's everything from logistics to supply chain to chemical engineers, even like biology and lab technicians in a sense for the engineer or for the manufacturing of our products. So I would say there is a place, whether it is in the R&D side or in the HQ side, but also in the manufacturing side for whatever your skills are. Maybe you have a strong attention to detail, so maybe that would make you a great sutures technician for us and having kind of that precision whenever it's making our sutures. There's just a lot of integrity in the work that I think that, especially knowing that these are going into people's bodies and helping them heal, that I think that that's what drives people to the impact of making a change, that motivates them to kind of think about their own talents and see, where their skills might be related. Also, obviously the technicians between the equipment that we use, understanding kind of the environmental impact of it, making sure that we're being socially responsible in that regard too. But then also, the folks that are on the sales side or on the, kind of corporate communication side, or even the, marketing side of that as well.
Thank you. Cameron, do you, what's something that students should be thinking about as far as skills that they should have or qualities that they should possess going into the job market?
Yeah, so I get this question actually a lot on like when I do my phone interviews, believe it or not. And specifically with this type of role, I always tell them, with the coachability aspect, I think that's huge. No matter what job you're in, I know from my experience too, I've had several managers that they teach things in different ways. And you have to be one coachable and adaptable. Those kind of go hand in hand. And I think the adaptability part comes into play when you do have these different managers teaching you different things in different ways. And, if you weren't a coachable person, you wouldn't be able to kind of just, again, like adapt to how they're teaching it and how you would put that to your desk. So I think coachability, adaptability, and then also I would just say being, a competitive person. I talked about this a little bit earlier as well. Always wanting more. Not so much setting a limit for yourself, setting that ceiling for yourself. Okay, I'm done for the day. I've done what I had to do. Every day when I leave my office, I always say, did I do everything that I could in that day? Because if I didn't, then I'm gonna make a couple extra calls. I'm going to, do a couple things that maybe I put to the side a little bit. And I think, yeah, that's those things I would say just in this type of role specifically, are the biggest things that I especially tell candidates on the phone as well.
Right. Before we go to the Q&A, I have one last question, and this is for anyone who would like to answer. So what's the best career advice you ever received? And how has it shaped your journey?
I would say the best advice I ever received was when somebody told me that you don't grow unless you step out of your comfort zone.
We heard that earlier tonight too.
Yeah. And I think that really helped me, and that helped me to, sort of inspired me to take on new challenges and do things that I didn't necessarily think were for me previously.
Anyone else want to chime in?
Go ahead.
I was gonna say is that if you're doing an internship or even if it's a new role, make sure you're expressing what you like or what you're passionate about. I remember I did an internship and it was for a company that had like the largest call centers. Granted, I wasn't working in a call center, I was working in their marketing department, but basically the leader I was reporting to, he told me how he had this amazing trip planned to Philly because he was expanding something. And I said, oh my gosh, is there an opportunity for me to join you? I just threw that out there because it just sounded so exciting. He was like, yeah, of course, let's make it happen. So whether that's in an internship role or your current entry-level role, if there's something that sounds exciting, maybe not necessarily in your line of work, you just want to experience it, ask, right? You don't know. The worst you can say is no, right? I've asked like, hey, do you guys need help with recruiting? I've never done recruiting. I've never attended career fairs. Now I've done, I don't know how many of them. And it's something that it's not necessarily I want to be in HR, but hey, it's fun. I don't mind doing it, but you just don't know what you don't know. So ask like, hey, that seems interesting. Can I learn more about that, right? Then they'll think about you for the next thing, right? You just don't know what that'll open doors for.
So I can see you agree with that.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, I think that's such a wise statement too, is just being able to ask, and like she said, the worst thing that people can say is no, and what's worse, not knowing or hearing no. I would say not knowing. But my advice would be just to trust your gut. You know, I've interviewed with several companies and, you know, I've been in a sense desperate for a job at points, but it's never been, you know, I've never felt like it was the right company or the right opportunity or anything like that until it was. I feel like that's also dating advice, but you know, I would say that it's just trusting your gut, the interactions that you're having with the recruiters or with the, you know, team members that you're meeting at these career fairs. If you feel connected to them, if you feel like they're genuinely interested in what you're doing, most likely they are. And that reflects the culture of the company itself. So just trust your gut. Somebody said it earlier, don't necessarily settle on the first opportunity. You want to make sure that it's right because, you know, if it's not the right opportunity, that means that another opportunity is coming down the pipeline.
Right, before we wrap it up here, any questions from anyone here or any other panelists? Anything? Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. If you guys couldn't do sales or recruiting or your current positions anymore, what role would you take and would you stay in your current industry or would you move?
I've been asking myself that question for about 15 years. If I wasn't in recruiting, what would I be doing? And I haven't figured it out yet. So I'm happy in recruiting. And so it seems like this is my career path.
Yeah, same here. I haven't really had anything else that I've been, you know, immersed. Like I haven't really done anything else. So, I'm the type of person, you know, if I'm comfortable and I enjoy what I'm doing every day too. Like that's the thing. It's you never really, again, like you never really know unless you try. If I never gave my chance a shot, like I said earlier, to say, hey, what about the recruiting role? I would have never been where I am right now. So yeah, I honestly don't really know if I would be in anything else, but it's also there's so much out there too. I mean, I haven't been in the job market in like 3 years now, so you never know really what's out there either. So yeah.
And just kind of in conclusion, like recruiting is a great field for the people that don't know what they want to do when they,
Yeah,
it really is. Like some people just know, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a doctor,
Yeah.
you know, and it's so easy for them to figure out. I mean, I'm not saying the path to get there is easy, but it's all laid out for them. But there's a lot of people out there like myself who majored in criminal justice and like things weren't really working out the way you thought they would. So I left myself open to opportunities. I fell into recruiting and like I said, I'm still happy doing it 15 years later. So
You learn something in recruiting is sales, and sales you'll use for the rest of your life for everything. You use it from relationships to business to get a promotion. So it's a life skill, and this is a transferable skill in the resume world. So it's something that you can take those experiences and put them on paper and use them for your next. I had a question back here.
Hi, my name is Chuk. I just have a really quick question. So what are like the biggest challenges that you guys facing in your company at the moment?
I would say for us, it's figuring out how we are going to create new business. I mean, so I mentioned that we service around 700 buildings a night in the Tampa Bay area. So we have still just only scratched the surface as far as how big we can get with things like that. But it's just about creating some new business opportunities for ourselves. You know, we're currently a $40 million company, but we want to be a $100 million company. So we're looking into things like, you know, trash valet services are really big these days. You know, we can maybe potentially get into that. But one of the biggest things we've done is, so we've always focused on our janitorial customers and upselling to them, but we didn't, you know, we've just forgotten about this whole other market out there of companies or businesses that might not be interested in our janitorial services, but they're interested in the 20 plus other services that we sell, you know, to the like janitorial customers. So we've created this new division. I'm actually working on making an offer to a guy right now to add him to the team. And so they're going to be out there like free to sell any one of our non-janitorial services to anybody that's not currently a customer of ours for janitorial sales. Yeah. So
Yeah, and
Us,
what
which very important for me to share is in our industry right now, the biggest challenge is batteries right now, right? They are causing lots of fires. So lithium ion batteries are pretty much in everything. They're in scooters, lawnmowers, they're pretty much everywhere. And you know, I myself, like I'm sure most people probably just throw it in the trash. So when your trash gets picked up, it goes to a transfer stations and a lot of like containers are catching on fire. Some people are just dumping, you know, scrap metal, thinking that it's good. And then unfortunately they cause fire. So that's the biggest challenge because essentially right now there's nowhere to get rid of them, and those fires are very difficult to put out. So it's an industry challenge right now that we're trying to work through. And once we figure that out, it'll definitely reduce a lot of the hazards, because the number one thing we care about in our company is safety. We want to make sure everyone gets home back the same way, if not better than they came. So I would say that's our biggest challenge right now.
The big one, you see it every once in a while, you see it on the news, yeah. Garbage truck on fire. Anyone else, any other questions? Right, so this is gonna bring us to the end of our discussion tonight. Thank you to all the panelists for sharing your time with us and your knowledge. So, for our students, thank you for being here, and if you have any questions, you want to stick
We have
around.
a question on the chat.
Go ahead. Read it from over there.
I was asking,
Hello, my name is Ahmed, and yeah, thank you all for your time. I'm currently a senior, majoring
While
in
he's
business
looking that up,
analytics.
Wednesday, we have our career fair, the business and logistics career fair is gonna be right here on campus. I think everyone's here, most of you are gonna be there. At the Marshall Center from 11 to 3. So we'll see you there if you show up, and please spread the word. And if you have any additional questions or you want to connect with them, or just stick around afterwards, we got to clear the room so we can, you're welcome to take it outside or downstairs, you grab a cup of coffee and continue the conversation. So thank you for your time.
Thanks, everyone.
So was there one more?
I told him to type in the chat, but you know what? Can he unmute himself? He can unmute himself.
Also muted for a second there.
Yeah, I was trying to speak earlier, and then I don't know, something happened to the mic. Yeah, so hello, my name is Ahmed, and yeah, I just wanted to thank you all for your time. I had a question for Sonia.
So
No,
As a
Okay.
business analytics
Well,
and information
thank you very
systems
much. Sonia,
major.
thank you for hanging out with us online, and we'll see you Wednesday, right? Or your team will be here.
My team will be here, but I can hear Ahmed's question in my headset, and he had a question for me. If you don't mind, if I can just stay on for another minute to answer that.
Yeah.
Does that
go
work?
ahead.
Okay.
So yeah, my question is, what do you look for in candidates? Like when you hire candidates for internships or full-time jobs, what do you look for? Like for IT positions or cyber positions?
Yeah.
What is like the like the main qualifications that like sells you that person for the
Yeah.
job?
Yeah, so his question, I don't know if you guys can hear it, was he's a business and information systems major. So he's asking me, he's a senior, so he's asking me what attributes I look at for internships and new grads and things like that for opportunities. So prior internship is going to be king, I would say. Of course, if you're going for the right major that fits the role and things like that. But prior experience, whether it's we talked about networking earlier. So if it's your network, if it's maybe a friend of your parents or a friend's parents who kind of have this network, definitely looking at opportunities for internships. But also any involvement that you have within your university. So if it's, part of different organizations or different groups, or maybe it's you're helping out even with like the IT team within USF, any sort of exposure or professional experience that you can get, that's going to really stand out as well. I think, again, being part of the IT team or even, the greater computer science department and helping out, whether it's TAing or again, just any sort of exposure, that's going to set you apart. And then we also said earlier, networking. I think about the students that I hired this past fall and how many of them I met at university career fairs or at information sessions that we held, because, I was able to put a face to the resume that they're handing me and remind myself of, the conversations that we had. So, this career fair is coming up in a few days. I won't be there, but my colleagues will be. And, I think that's a great opportunity for you to just get to know about the company a little bit more. It's great to be able to speak to that during your interview and let them know, I was able to have a great conversation with Elise or with Victoria or whoever is, at the table. So yeah, I would say that those are just kind of the things that stand out a little bit. I tried to keep that as condensed as I could, because I know everyone has to leave the room, but
All right, thank you very much.
all right, awesome.
So for those that, if you didn't grab one of those schedules, we have other career conversations for the rest of the semester and other events that we're doing. And then this is a list of the career fairs. So if you didn't get one, you can welcome the rest. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, no, it's fine. I was like,
Yeah.